Hey guys, it's Matthew here once again with an update video on the cast on crit spectral throw discharge Elementalist. So at this point it has taken on everything in the game, including a level 8 Awakener and Uber Elder, my first one of the league. And I'm not going to show you the Awakener kill, just a couple of clips, but I'll actually give you the whole Uber Elder kill, since that was the first time I've done it this league, and it is, in my opinion, the new hardest content, which isn't new, but it's, well, the most buffed hard content, because Sirus, especially after the patch that came in yesterday, isn't really all that much of a fight or that much of a challenge. You just have to learn what to do, and then he becomes fairly simple. In any case, there's a few things to talk about for this character, and that is that primarily I've made a few little changes, mostly in that I've incorporated Arc into the setup for the cast on crit and spectral throw. So Arc really serves to fill out the clear speed of the skill setup quite nicely. So we still have our discharge, and it's at ranged with astral projector, and it still hits like a fucking truck. So it's really nice to have that for our single target, and it works well enough to clear by itself too. But throwing in Arc on top of that, instead of the crit damage support currently, seems to be the play, because it does feel a lot nicer mapping and taking care of metamorphs, and just in general gameplay, it feels really nice having an additional skill in there, and namely that of Arc. Now I did also try out Venom Jaya, as you can see here, and it is a very respectable skill to use in this setup as well. So if you'd rather try out some Venom Jaya, maybe you'll like it a lot more than Spectral Throw as the activator in our skill setup, because it shoots out a lot faster, it feels a lot more instant, and as well as that, it seems to have a bigger spread just with whirling blades and the proc rate going off everywhere. So for clear, it does feel a bit nicer, I think, overall, but for single target, it does not proc anywhere near as much as Spectral Throw, and the damage is noticeably worse, but for most boss fights, it doesn't really matter. So definitely keep your eye on that if you're going to do it, and if you're going to do the Venom Jaya route, then you probably want at least one pierce somewhere. That could be a craft, that could be a jewel, that could be somewhere on the passive tree, but in general, I think you want at least one pierce, because that should maximize your proc rate and your single target damage. So I ended up sticking to Spectral Throw even after trying Venom Jaya, Cobra Lash, but Spectral Throw just still felt the best. It is a pretty important aspect to fill out all of your attack speed for your Spectral Throw, because otherwise it might feel a bit slow. And as well as that, I did end up keeping the Arc setup for basically the entirety of the character since putting it on. Val Arc, as you can see with the legions, is still just absolutely farming these legions, but with Elemental Equilibrium and the way that my character currently functions, Val Arc and Arc shouldn't be doing as big of a cleanup as if you were doing something like an Inquisitor, which wasn't relying on Elemental Equilibrium, because currently some of my attacks are definitely going to overlap and be somewhat resistant to lightning, but ideally on a single target, with the amount that Spectral Throw procs and hits, things should always be weak to fire and lightning either way. But I do think you can definitely try out some other ascendancies, and Inquisitor may end up being the best one, just so that you have no Elemental Equilibrium overlap ever, and you don't have to spec at all for it, so you can get additional damage wherever you want it. But in the end, Elementalist felt pretty well decent for most things. It did have its golems die sometimes during some metamorphs, a couple times during some bosses, and then definitely during Sirus. During Sirus, golems do have a pretty tough time living, even with the current changes, so it's not really too recommended to do Elementalist if you want to really go in on some endgame farm. For everything up till that point, golems really weren't that bad, and they could live through most things, but they still did die occasionally, and it is a bit of an annoying mechanic now. So you may have to spec into more golem life, or use a use spell when focused helm mod, which I didn't use in this one, but if you did that and had all 4 golems up in your helm, that would definitely help a lot too. But overall, I'm not sure if Elementalist is in a very good spot anymore compared to what it was last league, because golem survivability definitely out the window compared to what it used to be. But you can see the damage is definitely there right now, and you could build it as an Inquisitor or an Assassin, maybe even an Occultist, and still have similar results damage-wise. It's just going to be up to you to figure out your survivability, as well as your crit and hit and all of that. And this is my level 8 Awakener or Sirus kill, and it was nerfed, so primarily it's the storms that basically no longer chase you. Whenever you have the storm phase, when he goes immune, you can just kind of stand there off to the side and dodge his attacks, because the storm will just go about its merry way wherever it wants, and then you just run back in and activate him. So it's pretty simple these days, though it's still a fight you have to be able to beat at the end of the day, and tank and all of that. And I still messed up plenty, and I still made it look harder than it should have, but the storm mechanic basically doesn't exist anymore as far as you're concerned. It shouldn't really be an issue, at least not to the extent that it used to be, and the fight definitely feels a bit more hollow now because of that. So real quick, I want to just go over a couple of things on my character that I did change, and then I'll give you the full Uber Elder kill, and obviously move on to the next character. So the character hit 93 in the end. It did die a fair bit in the end game because just metamorphs, basically. Most content completely fine. If you put together sort of a one-shotty metamorph with this type of life pool, you're going to end up getting one shot, and that does happen somewhat often in the like tier 15, 16 maps. You could see a lot of the time we just blow them up instantly, and a lot of the time they're a lot tankier. It's just kind of the difference of what metamorphs you put in, but the big challenge in the character is filling out your life pool and trying to get your defenses up, because you start out with some pretty bad items defensively, like a Vol's Protector, which has nothing on it. The Ring has nothing on it. Vol's Devotion doesn't have much on it, and in the end I don't think I changed any gear from last time, but what we did do is attach an Immortal Core with a cast when damage taken, because most of the time you will have full endurance charges up, so whenever you trigger the Immortal Core, it ends up being a pretty potent damage reduction tool, so it's fairly largely recommended, I'd say. I didn't really want to live without it once I had it, so something like that should help a long way into surviving. Other than that, I'm not sure I changed too much of anything, just went out of my way to get a bit more life on the tree, a little bit of a rework, and bought level 21 golems. They're like 2 or 3 C each, but it helps give them a bit more life, so that's kind of important. And I did do a little bit of respecking on the tree, so we went out of these starting nodes just to save a few points, and went for some 3-point jewel sockets over there, a 3-point jewel socket down here, and then a bit of life down here as well as this crit multi-node down here. There's a few different ways I think you can do the passive tree, but I think this is just the best one that I managed to land on for plenty of life while getting some good stats, and then going out of my way for jewel sockets to pick up the valuable crit multi, a crit chance zealotry watcher's eye as well, and then the anima stone for the actual unique. I think that's just about it. I also, like I said, used Arc. Val Arc does help a lot in your clear every now and again, so that's the end setup there with GMP, Spectral Throw, Arc, Discharge, and then Inspiration and Cast on Crit. You could definitely do a bow version of the character, I do believe, since you'd be saving a link, and then also using things like Rain of Arrows, Blast Rain, Barrage as different triggers, and it may end up being a more successful character, not necessarily an Elementalist either, so that's definitely something to look into. Essentially, yeah, it's just cast on crit, check out some Discharge, check out some Astral Projector. I think there's lots of different ways you can build this sort of stuff, and this one was, I'd say, a 6 out of 10 as far as you could have built it. It was decent, but it felt like it had room for potential. Definitely wasn't a brick, so you shouldn't feel bad about playing or leveling it, but it feels like it could have been a bit better. Maybe the bow version, maybe something like an Inquisitor, a Pathfinder, something a little bit different. That's all though. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll leave you with the Uber Elder kill. Please, man. I don't need this tilt.
This is kind of pointless. Shape is gonna poof somewhere else as his first act. Well, it doesn't seem that much tankier, to be honest. At least, you know, not that much tankier. Alright. I think Stone Golem baits Elder around with his taunts and stuff. Which is gonna get a little bit messy. Okay, portals die ridiculously easily. That's good. I need to flame dash more to dodge things. Oh god. Please die. Good sir. I'm ready for next phase. Don't know why I popped the ball there. Just thought, fuck it, get rid of it. Shape is still going. Okay, surely that's good enough. Hopefully my mana's fine, I got no idea. Can I stand here? Ew, that was very close.
I need more mana.
Yo, every golem is still alive. How's that? In my opinion, nice. I really need to drop a fat Val RF though for the last phase at some point. Help burn stuff down. Damn, I was trying to fucking blink around the side. Almost died. No! I ran out of fucking good flasks. Probably because they're immune to early damage. Yeah, you think I'm not aware that my golems are immune to early damage? You fuck. Like I said, in the past, they still can die to Uber Elder because there's plenty of stuff that does physical damage, like the big explosion, which if you fucking noticed, you'd see they were taking damage during it. Yay, deathless first try. Wasn't the best attempt. And a nice steel ring for my trouble. Sick. What is that? Like fucking 5 exalts worth of nothing?